Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Micah Holland, and welcome to MK Financial Podcast. So this evening, we're going to talk about a subject matter that I believe some people struggle with, just based off my conversations. And recently, a couple that I spoke to that's leading me to share this information tonight. So the topic that I want to talk about is buying versus renting. You know, there's millions of Americans in this world that are currently renting. And, you know, when I think about that, the analogy or illustration that I use is renting is like taking a $100 bill, lighting your lighter and burning it. Why do I say that? Because there's arguments about the rising cost of owning a home, you know, the money that it takes that you have to put down in order to purchase a home versus it's very simple when you rent. So before I get into that myth that needs to be broken, and I'm going to give you a couple examples tonight where it just makes perfect sense for you to understand, I am going to tell you that there are certain circumstances where renting makes sense. So take me back in 2013 when I moved to Chicago temporarily. I knew that it was a temporary move. Anybody that's familiar with Chicago, you know that it's a very expensive place to live. So I made a conscious choice because I knew I was going to be there 18 months or less to rent the condo that I was living in. So that's a good example of a short-term move. Sometimes it makes sense. But what I'm talking about is if you have a family or you're looking to build your family and you're trying to decide, you know, once you decide where it is you want to live based on your job and schools that you want your children to do, or eventually when you have kids, for your kids to go to, which is the hardest step, then it just makes sense to really look in home ownership. I tell people all the time, and I hope that this sticks with you because it's very basic. I tell people who rent, you're still paying a mortgage. You're just paying someone else's mortgage. And so doesn't it make sense for you to pay yourself to live? Because that's basically what home ownership is. For example, if you buy a modest $200,000 home in today's market, in about 5 to 7 years, your home will now be worth probably about $250,000. It depends on where you live in the United States. But specifically on the northeast quarter of the United States, where the real estate is very expensive, from Maine down to about the tip of Maryland, southern Maryland. No, actually, Northern Virginia as well. Real estate, the market is always booming, and there's always appreciation with your home. So again, going back to my example, if you buy a home at $200,000 in that corridor of the United States, again, you should get about $50,000 in equity in about 5 years. Now think about this: you buy a home for $200,000. It came with about $30,000 in equity, so it's worth $230,000. You've gained $50,000 over that period of time, so now your house is worth $280,000. Now, when you buy a home, typically, you know, they want 3 to 5% down. So if you do a little bit, let's just use 5% as the number. So we know that 5% of $200,000 is $10,000. So you go in and you owe $190,000. You're paying on your principal. Now understand, when you buy your home, the first 15 years, the majority of your payment goes to principal. So a tidbit that I want to share is the home that you purchase and buy should be based off of that 50-30-20 rule that I've shared in previous short clips that I've put on my website. So 50% of what you earn should go to your needs, and a home, we have to have somewhere to live. But you should base it where you can make a payment biweekly. Why is that important? So your first payment at the beginning of the month, again, will be mostly interest, but that second payment that you make biweekly will go straight to principal. So most people get a 30-year mortgage. So after If you do that, you can cut your mortgage in half to about 13 to 14 years utilizing that method. So let's just say you do that. And so in 5 years, you've been making biweekly payments. So you would owe about 150, but your house is worth 280, and now you want to move, or you want to increase and get a better home, whatever the case may be. You now have $130,000 in equity. So that's just a basic example of a $200,000 house following these principles. Now let's reverse that, and you go and you rent a house that's worth $200,000. You live in that same house for 5 to 7 years, so same example, and same thing, you're deciding to move, or you want to move to a different, a bigger home. When you leave that place of residence, please tell me what you walk away from. Nothing. All you did was pay whoever owns that property, that most likely has a mortgage on the property, you paid down their property and you put equity back in their pockets, but you walk away with nothing. So I definitely want to make sure that I give a clear understanding about the importance of home ownership, because not only do you benefit in what I call you're paying yourself to live, but there's another benefit from that. It's called interest, and it's something that you can write off on your taxes. You can write off your property taxes. You can write off your interest that you pay on your loan. And so it's just another avenue to reduce the amount of federal taxes that you have to pay to the United States. So you will hear people say, but when you own your home, you're responsible for any repairs that you have for your home. Something breaks down, you have to do the upkeep outside, because most homes come with a homeowners association. All factual. But there are agencies out there where you can pay about $50 or $60 a month in case of a serious incident that you have with your house, like appliance, electrical, plumbing, and then all you do is pay a deductible, and they come out and they will repair that or replace that particular appliance up to a certain price. So again, it eliminates that burden of you having to deal with significant repair costs to your home. So absolutely, it should be a concern. But again, there are things around it, and that's why I encourage everybody to get insurance for anything that they have, because you don't need insurance until you need it. So again, I just want to end this particular session really just emphasizing, really get honed in on the 50-30-20 rule, where you are a better steward of your money. Think about that 20%, putting it away, making sure that you have, the down payment for you to purchase what, for most people in America, the biggest investment that they'll make, and that's buying a home. But really, if you're not a homeowner today, really start to focus on what I shared with you today. Really sit down. If you're single, really look at your finances individually. If you're married, sit down with your spouse or significant other, and make sure that you guys really start talking about home ownership and understanding the importance of home ownership. And the bigger thing out there is there's so many programs for those of you that have never owned a home, where you need little to no money at all as a first-time buyer. You'll get very good rates, and it's an excellent opportunity for you to move into your home. So I hope this was helpful for you. Have a great evening.